from West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the following is provided by the West Virginia Department of Education and West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Hey everyone, it's Education Station, the show where we invite teachers from all across West Virginia to submit videos of themselves teaching their favorite lessons. In today's episode, we've got 3 exciting lessons about reading, online learning, and math. Well, hello and welcome back everyone. I'm your host, Alex Milanese, and we're kicking off today's episode with a fun read-aloud story. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the story of the 3 little pigs, but did you know that the big bad wolf has a different version of the story? Well, Mrs. Pikarski is going to share with us the true story of the 3 little pigs. Let's check it out.
Hi guys, it's Mrs. Pikarski, and today we are going to read this story, which is called The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs. Okay, and it says the author, so that means the person who wrote the words, is John Sciezza. I'm probably mispronouncing that last name. It means I'm probably saying it wrong because it's a tough one. And it was illustrated by Lane Smith. So the illustrator is the person who drew these pictures. The author is the person who wrote the words, okay? So we're gonna read the true story of the 3 little pigs. So if you've heard about the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf, apparently this is the true story. So let's read and find out. Okay, it says, everybody knows the story of the 3 little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. So it just has the words there, but who do you think could be talking there? No one's heard my side of the story. Aha! It says, I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. So diet is kind of like the things that you eat. He says, hey, it's not my fault that wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, then people would probably think you were big and bad too. So he's saying that's just what wolves eat, right? We're not bad guys because that's what our diet is. So that's an interesting thing to think about, huh? Pages are stuck together. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. So that's where he wrote on the chalkboard. This is the real story. So now he's going to tell us his side of the story. It says, way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold and I ran out of sugar. So he's making a cake for his granny and he's got a terrible case of sneezes, and all of a sudden he runs out of sugar and he says he needs sugar for this cake he's baking. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig. And he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in their right mind would build a house out of straw? So he's kind of got a point, right? What would happen to straw whenever a big gust of wind went by, or anything really? It would probably, well, let's see. So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed. Oh boy, and there's the pictures. What do you guys think is going to happen at home? He feels like he has to sneeze. It's a house made out of hay. He huffed and he snuffed, and I sneezed a great sneeze. Oh boy. I don't think that's going to be good for this house of hay. And you know what? That whole straw house fell down, and right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig. He had been home the whole time. Uh-oh, so the house fell on top of him, all that hay. Well, it seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. So he's saying to him, right, there was no harm since he was already gone, right? My goodness. So he doesn't think he did anything wrong. So I wonder what you guys think at home. Was that wrong to do that or not? Well, he said after that, I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much, but he had built his house out of sticks. So I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." So there's the pictures. So now he's at the second little pig's house. What do you guys think is going to happen to this pig's house? It says, I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. So this time, at least he tried to cover his mouth, but he didn't make it in time. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. And when the dust cleared, there was the second little pig. So there's the pictures. So he sneezed again and the second house fell down. So far he hasn't really been trying to hurt anybody. It's all just been a big accident. It says, now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little pig answered? So rude means when you say something that's just really not very nice, right? So he's saying he wasn't very nice when he answered. But here's what he said. He says, "Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again." So he's kind of right. That isn't very nice to say that. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar. And he wouldn't even give me one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled at me, "Your old granny can sit on a pin." Oh, so he's really not being very nice to him, huh? Although, if you think about it, this wolf did just, eat both of his brothers. So you can understand a little bit, huh? Well, so he yelled at him and it says, now I'm usually a pretty calm fellow. That means a pretty calm guy. But when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops came up, of course, I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. So you can see what the cops, right, what everybody thought when they came up. And the rest, as they say, is history. So that's a saying that people say that, means, and then, now you know what happened next. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had had for dinner, and they figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it, the real story. I was framed. So there's the pictures of the news stories that they put in the newspaper. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. And here, let me put that closer so you can see the picture of him asking for a cup of sugar. So that is the end of that story. So I'm really curious what you guys think at home, what you think about the wolf side of the story, right? Because we hear about, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. But this is a really interesting, a really different side of the story, huh? So what we're going to do now is, here in just a second, I'm going to be standing up and I'm going to show you guys something that I have built. So just hold on one second and you'll see it now. Hey guys, so I'm back and I made my very own little house for the pigs. So I have mine made out of popsicle sticks and clothespins. And if you can't see, I have a hair dryer here that I put little eyes on him. So he's gonna be our wolf for today, okay? So what I'm gonna do here in a second is I'm gonna see if I used good materials, if I built my base strong enough to withstand, to hold against our wolf, okay? So I'm gonna turn on my wolf and see if he's able to blow the house down, okay? So maybe make your guesses at home. Do you think that I've built it well enough that it'll stand up to the wolf? Let's find out. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I don't know if you guys could see, but I put popsicle sticks on the sides for walls, and the walls all came down. Now, except for my clothespins, the clothespins stayed up, so my popsicle sticks weren't that strong, but it stayed up pretty well. I mean, the roof only kind of came off, so I mean, I'll take it. So now that I've cleaned up all my materials, so you guys saw it held up pretty well. What I'm gonna tell you guys at home, I have a little challenge for you if you guys wanna do something extra today. If you have, and you don't have to use a hairdryer like I did, but if you do have one, it's pretty fun. If you have anything at home, if you have Legos or blocks or popsicle sticks like I use, anything at home that you wanna use to try to build your own house for the 3 little pigs that will stand up to the wolf, see if you can build something at home. And then if you don't have a hair dryer, you could use a fan, you could use your breath. Like if you think you're a really strong, you have really strong breath and you can blow really hard, or maybe you could get your younger siblings to help you out with blowing. Anything like that at home, that if you want to try to build your own little house and try to blow it down, I would love to see what you guys build if you decide to do that today. So either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this story and enjoyed seeing me try to blow down my little house that I built. And I hope you guys have a great day today.
Thanks, Mrs. Pikarski. All right, now, as we all know, there's been a lot of remote learning going on lately. And one of the main platforms that teachers and students are using is called Microsoft Teams. So next up, Mr. Moore is going to give an overview of how to use Microsoft Teams. So whether you're a parent or a student, there's going to be some helpful information here. Let's check it out.
Hello, my name is Mark with the West Virginia Department of Education, and this is going to be a quick look at Microsoft Teams, which your teachers might be asking you to use over the next year. So let's jump in and look at Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is a free download for just about every device that you have. So it works on PCs and Macs and iPads, iPhones, and Android phones. And once you've downloaded the software, sign in with your email address and password that your school gave you. This will look like something at stu.k12.wb.us. If you do not know your password, don't contact the Department of Education. They don't have it. You'll need to contact your local school. The most important part of Teams is the left-hand toolbar. Now that'll be something different depending on your device, but it's on the left-hand side on my PC. The first thing I'm going to do is go to Teams and look at all of my teams. I belong to many, many teams, including the chemistry team and the algebra team and the music team. I'm going to go into my algebra team, and my algebra team is broken into channels. Now this teacher decided to break it up by chapters. So chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. But not all teachers do that. So if I go to music, the music teacher has broken it up into bass clef and treble clef, etc. And another channel just to discuss the spring concert. Let's go back and look at one more team. Let's look at the cooking class that I'm in. It is broken up into baked goods versus seafood versus meats. So your teacher will set this up and you will join the team and you will look at the different channels. Now, let's go back to algebra and look at chapter 1 algebra. We have discussion. This is where the teacher might type a question and students that can then go in and answer those questions. That's simple discussion where teachers can have meetings and have relevant discussion based on that subject. So chapter 1 discussion is in chapter 1 and chapter 3 discussion is in the chapter 3 channel. Let's take a look at the top of the channel. It has its own file cabinet. So any discussion or any documents that belong to chapter 3 will be in the chapter 3 file cabinet. Chapter 2 documents will be in the chapter 2 file cabinet. Very, very simple. Now, let us talk about assignments. My teachers have given me homework. How would I find that? Well, on the left toolbar, I'm going to go to assignments. I belong to many classes, so I need to go to each one. So let's look at my algebra class. Next. And I've got homework. I'm supposed to graph a function. So if I click on this, I can see the instructions, I can see everything I'm supposed to do, I can see the point value, I can do the work, and I can turn it in all without leaving Teams. You can find it in a couple different ways. If I go back to the algebra team and the general channel, I can find assignments up here as well. But most students will use assignments on the far left side. Let's focus in on the left-hand toolbar and go to the top where the activity bell is. Every time your teacher gives you an assignment or grades your homework or mentions something in one of the channels, that will show up under activity. This is your feed. So the first thing I do in the morning is I turn on Teams and check my activity to see if there's anything that needs my attention. Once the activity is taken care of, I can jump into Teams and discuss what's going on with my students. Another thing that we'll see is that some things are bold. Bold means there's new information that you haven't seen yet. So if it's bold, you need to go there and see what's new. If it's not bold, you're caught up. One of the most important parts of Microsoft Teams is that it is a video conferencing system, like you might have seen on Facebook or Zoom or Google. It is its own video conferencing. So I can talk to my classmates. I can talk to my teachers. The teacher would set these meetings up. So in Chapter 3 channel, I can see that there is a meeting, and all I have to do is click and it's a video conference. It's just that easy. If the teacher recorded it, I can click here and watch the recording of this meeting. So Your teacher will be setting up class meetings with you. All you have to do is point and click. When a teacher invites you to a meeting or when that meeting is coming up soon, your activity bell will go off.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. Now, if you've spent any time in a math classroom, probably you or one of your friends has asked, when are we ever going to use this? Well, our next segment is going to answer that question. We're going to see how decimals can help us with something that we use every day, money. For more on this, let's go visit Miss Sinisi.
Today's video is Math Lesson 7, and we're looking at using decimals and money, or how money is actually decimals, points, and use. So we're going to look at a little review, just because the last decimal lesson we had was a couple weeks ago. So a decimal is a number that consists of a whole number and a fractional part, and they're separated by the decimal point. So I've put an example up here for you. We have 1,672 and 764 thousandths, or 0.764, and I just put that, and here's our whole number. The 1 is in thousands place, the 6 is in hundreds place, the 7 is in tens place, and the 2 is in ones place. Then we have our decimal, and then we go to tenths, which was where the 7 is, hundredths, which is where the 6 is, and thousandths, which is where the 4 is. So that's just a review of what we went over in the general decimal lesson. And so we can look at decimals using money. So our first example, if I told you we have $1.25, how do we write that? What does that look like when we express it in numbers? So remember, you always have to have your dollar sign. So we have our 1 and then our decimal and 25 cents. But what does that mean? 1.25. So knowing what we know about decimals, we can say not only is that $1.25, it's also $1.25 of a dollar. So let's kind of break that down and think about what we have. We have $1 here, just $1, and 25 cents. Notice here we also put the cents. You always have to put your units so that or your marks so that you know what we're talking about. So we have $1 and 25 hundredths of a dollar. That's what the 25 cents tells us. So if we were going to break it down even farther, and we look at what is $2.10, right? We say $2.10 or $2.10 of a dollar. That's how we would say that. And then we can look at it, and all of these are, when we break them down, to be equal. We have $1, which is 100 cents, right, if you had a dollar. If you have 25 cents, you have 25 over 100 cents. If we only had 10 cents, we would have 10 100ths. If we have 5 cents, we have 5 100ths. If we have 1 cent, we only have 1 out of 100 cents. All of those are equal in that $1 is 4.25 cents. It's also 10 cents. It's also 25 cents, 20 nickels, or 100 pennies. So if you would go to the store and something cost $1, you could give them 100 pennies, that's $1. You could give them 10 dimes, that's also $1. So we're looking at the fractional decimals. Hold on for just a second. All right. So let's look at adding decimals using money. So we want to add up and see how much money we have. That's always important to know, like even especially if you've got your piggy bank out. So what is $2.25 plus $3.10? The first thing you need to do when you add is to line up our decimals. We're going to set them up here. We have $2.25. There's your decimal, your point. $3.10. So we line up our points and then add. 5 plus 0 is 5, right? 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. So we have $5.35. That's the way we add money using decimals. Here's another example. It's a reading problem. So let's look through and to see what we're going to add. If you have $6.15 and then your best friend has $2.35 and your brother has $10.50 and we want to pull all of our money to buy something, we need to know how much money do we all have together. So we line up the decimals again. We have our $6.15. Here's our $2.35 and our $10.50. And then we just add. 5 plus 5 is 10, right? You have to carry your 1. 1 and 1 is 2, and 3 is 5, and 5 is 10. carry your 1. 1 and 6 is 7. 2 is 9. There's your 9, and then bring down your 1. So all of you together would have $19. So you could buy something that costs $19 or less, right? So we would know. Finally, we want to know, but what if we're not looking at decimals and we still want to add, right? Or not looking at money and we still want to add using decimals. The procedure is still the same. So if we want to add, what is 167.656 and 545.008? We're still going to align the decimals and then add. So here is our 167.656. Here's our 545.008, and we can add those two together and get 712.664. You're just bringing the decimal straight down and putting it there. So we could say that 712 and 664 thousandths, or 0.664. Either way is correct. The last one is a longer. Sometimes we use math in math class, but sometimes we also use math in science class. So say you're doing a lab and your teacher says, we're going to weigh all these samples of sugar. Or they may say we're going to mass them. But we're looking at the samples of sugar in a lab, and I need to know how much we have in all of these samples. So we weigh our first sample, and it weighs 67.726 grams, right? So we weigh that one, and then we weigh our second sample, and it was 272.46 grams. And then we're going to weigh our third sample, and it was 121.000 grams. How much do you have altogether? So we can do it the same way. We're going to align our decimals. So we put them all in a line here. Here's our 67.726. Then we line up our 272.46. What I put on here that you can do if you kind of get a little bit confused and you want to keep your place, you can add a 0 on the end here. It doesn't matter, we could add 500 zeros here, it's still the same number. So we can add a 0 just to hold our place so we don't get confused. And then our 121.002. When we add all of those, we end up with 461.118. But what is essential that we need in our answer that we don't have here that we should put down? Grams. Remember we talked about you always put a dollar sign or a cent sign. Here for this answer, we're going to take our pencil and put a G here because our teacher asked us how many grams do we have. And we want to know that we have 461.188 grams. So I hope this was helpful for you to using money and decimals and learning how to add decimals.
Thanks, Miss Sinisi. All right, well, that wraps up everything for us here today on Education Station. We want to thank everyone who shared their awesome lessons, and we want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Education Station.